Oh, welcome aboard. Welcome to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, and full impact mindfulness where we help people explode into their lives. Are you weary of hearing platitudes? Are you weary of seeing quotes without anybody exactly giving you the instructions on how to do it? Well, what we like to do on this show is to show you precisely how we have incorporated these particular interventions, these measures in our lives. We've lived enough on maybes, ifs, and waiting for something to happen. It's time to make an active choice into your life to maybe stop being the observer and get off the bench and get into the game, as they say in the athletic world. So, as you all know out there, what we like to talk about, these are challenge podcasts. And what we deal with in our lives is much about low self-concept, low self-esteem, and identity formation. So, self-concept is facts and information you know about yourself, which may be skewed depending on your frame of reference and who is giving you that information. And also self-esteem is how you interpret those facts and information that you have at your fingertips about yourself. And then we discuss those are building blocks of identity formation. So, and we've talked about this in the past, Mike. Perhaps you haven't been out on a dating website, and your wife might get upset about that.
I don't think there were dating websites before I was attached to somebody.
So quite often what I'll do as a self-validation exercise with the people I deal with is ask them to create a profile, but rather than what they have to offer, it's what are the requirements it takes to be with me? What are the requirements it takes to be with me, both as a friend and or a romantic interest? Have you ever thought about that, Mike? Have you ever thought about that list?
Isn't it? And they don't provide that in any sort, right? Like that seems like it is kind of the attitude, isn't it? Is like, what can I do for you? You're trying to sell yourself on these platforms, much like trying to sell a used car on Craigslist.
Well, here's what I have to offer, and I'll give you a little insight into where I particularly developed this concept. As most people out there know that I haven't had an original idea in years. I mainly copied and absorbed things from other people, places, and things. However, I do have an occasional thought. At one time, I was on the board of a tri-county drug and alcohol commission, and I believe they might have had a momentary lapse of reason and put me in charge of the employment committee. Okay. So I was do the interviews with people. And normally at the end of an interview, Mike, that's when you say, okay, what questions would you like to ask us? So you've gone through interviews before.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, what are the questions that are asked of a potential employer?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of them?
Oh, what are the benefits? Oh, what's the dress code? Is there a casual Friday?
And if I'm hired, when do I start? What's the salary,
Yes.
potential for raises, promotions, things like this. However, and I'll never forget this young lady looked at me and she said, okay, why should I work for you? What benefits do I get from working for you? I actually stood up out of my chair and said, now you have my attention.
It is the thing, and I've had friends that have been job searching and telling them, listen, the job needs to sell itself to you too. You don't just accept it because it's there.
What I'm asking people out there is to make a list of the requirements that it takes to be with you and do not settle. So often, maybe we'll purchase something, say, well, it's not quite what I want. And then did you ever purchase something, Mike, and have what we call buyer's remorse?
Oh, all the time.
Mm-hmm. So in relationships, you can really get remorse and possibly some other things too. So today, Mike, what I'd like to do is go over some core emotional concerns. And what I call these are basic Bill of Human Rights.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't what we hope to get from people. I believe that we can use these as a standard in which to judge whether a person is in your life or not, whether they're an acquaintance, a friend, or a life companion. Okay. So the first one is to feel understood. So, Mike, in your life, who do you feel understands you? Name some first names if you choose.
If I choose, oh, in the room, well, my wife, I think, understands me.
Okay.
Well, no, although she keeps telling me she doesn't understand me, so maybe that's a mixed bag. But generally,
The second one is to feel appreciated.
mhm.
Every single human being has a need to feel that they are appreciated. How many people do you know, or maybe you felt yourself that you felt unappreciated for the hard work that you've done?
And that's super important. We were talking about jobs before, right? And people just kind of expect you to do it, and that's your job. Why should you be complimented for doing your job? Because you need it. Because you need the reinforcement. You need if you're not giving a positive, a lot of people, myself included, if you're not given that positive reinforcement, your mind starts going to the other places. Am I doing a good job? Am I good enough for this? It's you need a little bit of that support.
How many times have you done something for somebody or maybe an event and you never even received even a cursory thank you?
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
Oh, definitely a little bit of well, for me, I kind of try to just do it anyways, but
I know you would. However,
yes.
how would you feel about it?
Oh, definitely a little bit of like, well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be giving my energy towards this.
Yeah, you feel disrespected,
Yes.
marginalized,
Mhm.
maybe not worthy of one.
Mhm.
Okay, these are all fundamental building blocks of self-concept and self-esteem. How about this one, Mike? To be given the benefit of the doubt.
Mhm. Mhm.
And let me give you an example of what I would call the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that you're my son, okay? And you would have had a wonderful life, by the way.
Revelations on this podcast.
If you were my son and you were in high school, and you said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going out on Friday night." Well, fine, Mike. I'd like you to be home by midnight. All right. So it gets to be 1 a.m. and you just stroll through the door. What the benefit of the doubt means that I don't jump right out of my seat and start barking at you. I say to
Mhm.
myself, there could be a very good reason that Mike has for being an hour late. I'm going to hear him out.
Mhm.
That's to give somebody the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
So, quite often, that not giving the benefit of the doubt is that 12-step concept of contempt prior to investigation,
Mhm.
which will keep a person in everlasting ignorance. Okay.
That's right.
So, also to be treated as an equal.
Mhm.
So, tell me about being treated as an equal in your life, Mike. How much of is that how much is that a requirement for you, for a friend?
No, I think that's very important, because I mean it's kind of a core to operating together and working together, is to kind of feel like you're on the same level with people.
Sure. Have
Uh,
you ever been around an individual that you work with that was rather condescending and
mhm.
maybe talked down to you, tried to
Mm.
explain things to you like you were a neophyte?
Oh, absolutely. In some of the business that I work with some kind of performing professionals, it is really cool to I do a different job than they're doing the performance. I'm kind of a side character, not a character, a side um, um, helper on that, filmer of that, producer of that. But to have those performers kind of talk to me on that same level, know what's going on, and be able to work together with that, that makes for better work in the end. That we both do our jobs better when we communicate and treat each other on those levels.
Absolutely. And this plays right into it. All of these are very important. And
Mm.
that's to be treated respectfully. Even though your views may differ from the other person, or perhaps your method of operating or obtaining a goal may be different than somebody else's, you can still treat that person respectfully.
Absolutely.
Respect is a huge part of self esteem and self-concept. These are all what I call basic Bill of Human Rights, on which we can put a standard on what type of people are in our lives. And I consider our lives to be a garden, Mike. And do we need weeds to allow to grow?
No, no. Every person in our life affects us in a certain way, and I think it's important to kind of look at those relationships and see, is this good for me? Is this a thing I need to be around?
Plant flowers, pull
Mm-hmm.
weeds. So having the freedom to decide. Someone gives you the freedom to decide. And actually, someone can give you the freedom to be wrong. How many people do you know in your life that maybe are in a relationship, or maybe some parents that are a little over the top, and they don't give their significant other, their children, maybe a coworker, the freedom to decide on their own? Micromanaging.
That's right. Kind of locking the kids down, not letting them to grow and make the mistakes. And I think that's a word that people want to avoid is mistakes. I look at entrepreneurs and they say, well, the mistakes are the ones we learn from. It's another badge of honor to have all the mistakes and failures, because that means you've learned from it and you can grow and you do better with the next one. And I think growing people from those failures and mistakes causes them not to grow.
And as our friend Thomas Edison said, I found out things that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So quite often in life, and we've talked about this, but it always bears repeating, if we don't know what to do, and quite often we don't know what to do, Mike. However, I'd challenge everybody out there to say, I'll almost guarantee that you know what not to do.
That's right. Oftentimes I run into, I don't know what to do with this situation, this person, this thing, and it's like, well, you pick a direction. It's one of my favorite things in Star Trek, and I hope not to misquote is where do we go next? And the second star on the left.
Second star to the left and straight on until dawn.
Yes.
That was the directions to Neverland.
Oh, and I think it was co-authored by Star Trek
that Peter Pan gave to Wendy. One of the ways to tell a true friend is someone who truly shares in your sorrow and shares in your joy. So let's talk about sharing in joy for a moment. Let's say you were with a group of friends and acquaintances or at a party, and you said, "Hey, you know what? On my way here, I took a chance and I bought a $10 scratch-off ticket at the counter, and I won $1,000." Most everybody would be saying, "Oh, Mike, good for you." But how many of them do you think in their own minds would be saying, "Why didn't I win that money? He doesn't need that money. I never win anything."
And it seems like everybody else has more luck than you, because you're looking at everybody else as the whole and you as the one.
So here's my definition of a true friend would say to you, "Mike, I have a tinge of jealousy that you won that $1,000. However, I'm truly happy for you."
Oh yeah.
That's a friend.
And can I borrow $20?
Well, if somebody approached you like that, I think you'd be more apt to do that.
Or I have a business opportunity for you and a bridge in Alaska.
How many times does someone come into a windfall and immediately they start to get these offers of amazing?
One of those,
isn't it?
Oh, really?
So what we talk about on this program, in this show, is working on yourself. We always make it important that people are important. One of the things I always impress upon people is that you're important. Some of the things that I deal with people is how many people deflect compliments. When I'm dealing with individuals, particularly, let's say the first time I meet them, what we call an initial evaluation, I'll ask them, how do you handle compliments? I'll ask them that. How do you handle compliments? And most of them will say, not well.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you complimented someone and they've deflected it?
I know I'm a deflector. I know it's hard for me to accept compliments for, say my work, right? Because I always see what I did wrong in the work, and it's like, oh, it's not really that good,
So if someone would say to you, "Oh, that was a great production you put together, Mike." "Yeah, but it could have been."
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather so, and again, we refer back to our challenge podcast, which these are. My challenge out there to everyone is when somebody gives them a legitimate, true compliment, to look them in the eye and merely say, thank you. To merely say, thank you.
It's the simplest thing.
Now,
To me, I at least give the thumbs up on Facebook.
and sometimes it's when you and I are out or we go somewhere and the server will say, would you like anything else? And I usually would say, common sense. Could you we'd like to have some common sense. And they usually get a chuckle out of that. However, one of the most common replies I get is, we're fresh out of that.
That's a good one.
So my challenge out there to everyone is to perhaps brighten someone's day, brighten a server's day when they ask you, would you like anything else? Say, yes. Could you bring me a heaping order of common sense?
Absolutely.
And we'd like to hear what your responses would be. And as always, we're looking for individuals to particularly share their recovery stories, not necessarily from drugs and alcohol. Those are always welcome. From any type of adversity or situations that you've dealt with in your lives. Remember, everyone out there, no matter how insignificant they think these trials are of theirs, they're special and they're important to you. And what we like to do is share with others what you did about it. That's important. It's important to qualify yourself, but however, it's more important to tell people, here's what I did about it. And that's our challenge to everyone out there. And as always, a free prescription at the end of every podcast: fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. We ask that you forgive yourself and forgive another. Do a kindness for yourself and do a kindness for another. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.